Well, what do you know? Gen V is not only a very good show, but it's also pretty darn complex, with so many things happening very quickly and rapidly expanding the Boys cinematic universe. So I'm going to break down the first 3 episodes, which all drop tonight to kick off the debut season of the show. And not only am I going to share my findings and feelings, but this is going to be a little cliff notey for those of you who still aren't sure if you're going to watch or not. Get on this train. It's fantastic. And I'm going to focus on the exciting mystery that this show revolves around, catch you up, and again, share my own theories and thoughts. But then also, this will be fun, my very own rankings of who are the best supers on the show for this week. And my rankings will change with each week, with how the characters perform, new ones who are maybe added. We'll have a really good time, and I hope you'll share your own rankings down below. I think the rankings at Godolkin U are a really fun idea. It's like a superhero draft. I think that's great. So once again, even just like the Boys, this is about Vaught handling their product. Supers created by Compound V. And the show in the brand, the Boys, in advertising Gen V has said that this is the first generation that doesn't think they just got powers, but knows that their parents pumped them full of Compound V in the hopes that they would become supers. I don't really feel that, at least in the first 3 episodes, that element really comes in. It just seems like superhero college. But they don't need that element. Although Compound V and products from Vaught, put a pin in that. And I'll kind of outline where that you can see that storyline moving forward here. So Vaught handles their product on 2 levels, right? Which we know from the Boys. On the surface, where they seem like a normal corporation that just has a product pipeline, and here we discover that Godolkin U, aka God U, is a major part of that, kind of like, getting them started once they graduate from their parents' homes, right? This is where they start their super careers. Although, again, we'll talk a little bit about the wrinkles in that in a moment. But then there's also the seedy underbelly of Vaught, the true Vaught, where it's all Vaught. Vaught, Vaught is like, a little bit like Stark Enterprises before Tony, saw the light. They're a weapons manufacturer. So, they have a front-facing behavior and back-facing behavior, back of the house. And in their seedy underbelly, that's where they're clearly playing by their own rules. Those who have the supers get to make the rules. And that they're truly treating supers like product instead of people. Lots of experimentation. Now, on that note, 2 former The Boys locations come into play here again. Red River Institute, the Vaught orphanage for difficult or abandoned super kids. Either their parents didn't want to deal with them anymore, or they can't because they were killed by their super kids. And that's Marie Moreau's background. Get it? Island of Dr. Moreau, great name. But when her powers manifested a little late in this universe at puberty, which makes it very X-Men-y with that opening sequence, but she ended up killing her parents in the process. And it's interesting, having a person of color, a super of color on the 7 was very much her parents' dream. And now that I think about it, I think that's really what is compelling her to really want to be on the 7, so, to kind of honor their memory. And also I think it's good personal motivation that her sister, not only does she not know where her sister is, but she believes that, they didn't part obviously on very good terms, and her sister thinks she's a monster. And so she very much wants to prove that she's not. So I think that's a great setup. Again, as I said, also very X-Men-y. But after Marie Moreau killed her parents, while her sister was adopted by a regular family, Marie went to Red River Institute, again, that orphanage, which was also in the Boys animated series as well. But don't forget, this is where Victoria Newman grew up, also a problem child, who became a problem adult. Let's hope things turn out better for Marie. I do wonder where supervillains are in this world. I guess Vaught is so villainous, it's hard they seem to be the chief villain. But I wonder why no one drops out of Godolkin U and becomes the supervillain. I thought that was a little bit interesting, especially when you have the X-Men element. You're like, where's the Brotherhood of, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants or whatever? Victoria Newman was here, as I said before, Stan Edgar adopted her. But no one adopted Marie Moreau, but she did get accepted to Godolkin U. And then also what pops up is the Sage Grove Center. Remember this. This was a mental institution which was actually doing testing on superpowered patients, which ultimately, that testing led to the creation of V24 from last season of The Boys, the version of Compound V that gives regular adults superpowers. Usually you have to take Compound V as a child or a baby, actually, or not, you can't benefit from it. But this gives adult superpowers for 24 hours before it was revealed at the end of season 3, eventually killing them. And so, that's why we left Butcher, who became addicted to V24, like a ticking time bomb. So now on this show, Sage Grove Center is where Luke's mentally ill brother was being held before he committed suicide, but in reality was moved to a new location. And that's right. In addition to Godolkin U, we're getting 2 other new locations in episodes 1 through 3. There's the Woods, which is another testing facility, this time underneath Godolkin U, named after the wallpaper that can be seen from the cell doors. Like, oh, don't freak out too much. Look how nice it is out here. It's wallpaper. I think that's clever, though, where Sam is currently being held in secret and experimented on. And you might be like, why did they have to move him under the school? Well, Luke, before he dies or commits suicide, Luke says that they've done things to him down in the woods as well. So I guess they wanted to have Sam in close proximity to his brother, yet Luke still thought his brother was dead, which is very interesting. So if Sage Grove Center was responsible for the ultimate creation of V24, what might they be working on here? Vaught always has an end game. And then we also learn very briefly about the existence of the Elmira Adult Rehabilitation Center, which seems to be a Vaught prison where it seems they also have other experiments going on. That seems to be hinted at because, what could be worse than being locked up? Being experimented on. And again, Vaught very much feels that you're their property. So now let's go over the basic setup, and I'm also going to tell you what I like so much about it, specifically 2 sequences that I thought really stood out. So Luke, aka Golden Boy, has a ticket to the big leagues after graduation. He's going to protect New York, baby! And probably on his way to the 7 after that. It's the beginning of a beautiful super career. I thought it was interesting that after he committed suicide and made Godolkin U and Vaught look really bad, you saw them start to turn on his family and twist the narrative, as Vaught can do, which I thought also spoke very much to, the way things are handled today. So I thought that was fascinating. They're like, Luke's parents are sweethearts, but they're like, did they twist him and turn him into who he was? Who he ultimately was revealed to be? But Luke, throws away his very promising future when his brother, who he thought was dead, starts psychically calling out to him. And so demanding answers, Luke's interrogation and temper go a bit too far, and he burns the man who he thinks has the answers, student favorite Professor Brink. I was surprised because this is such a well-known actor whose name escapes me at the moment. Clancy Brown. He's been in so many things. I thought he would bring the show down a little bit. In fact, I think he's so overexposed. But that was great because the fact that they killed him off in episode 1, I did not expect that considering we all know who Clancy Brown is. So I thought that was great. But yeah, he burned him to a crisp. And wouldn't you know, that's just when Marie walks in because she's about to be expelled and she's trying to make sure that she's not, because if she is expelled, she's pretty sure she's going to be put in Elmira, the adult facility. So Golden Boy goes to silence her because he doesn't trust her not to say anything because, they just recently met. And things get out of hand. And then Luke, ultimately overwhelmed by emotion, having thrown away his future, a mix of the two. I wonder what's going on here. We'll put a pin in that for future episodes. But he blows himself up right over the university. No one can take out Golden Boy, it seems, except Golden Boy. But not before Luke leaves a recording for his best friend forever, even after death, Andre, the son of former member of the 7, Polarity. And that recording reveals that Sam is still alive, and what do you know? It's the out-of-control student that Andre and Marie had kept escaping in the first episode just a few nights before because they didn't know that was Luke's brother. And that, and Luke tells them the woods exists under the school. And this sets our Scooby-Doo gang in motion. They must do it for Luke. Although Marie's like, I wasn't friends with Luke. He tried to kill me. And I think that's also very realistic and a kind of an interesting aspect as well. Now, this whole mystery in the first 3 episodes results, as I said, in 2 excellent sequences. The first is Jordan Lee versus Golden Boy at the end of episode 1, where Lee shows that they are truly a force to be reckoned with, each gender with a different power, male invulnerability and female sonic blasts. That's fantastic. And switching back and forth during the fight, Lee is actually able to go toe-to-toe with Golden Boy for a few rounds. This fight was so well done, great use of powers, both with the VFX and just thinking about how to cleverly use them. And also, it genuinely played like the stakes were very high. I very much felt they were both in danger, and it was great. Then the other fantastic sequence is at the end of episode 3, where Emma, aka Cricket, goes small and sneaks down into the woods to find out what's going on there and locate Sam. From her Polly Pocket style outfit, what a cute outfit for a raid. I guess she only has so many choices because, where you would get clothing like that, to having her wear the GPS tag like a messenger bag, adorable, to sneaking in on the dinner tray, with the peas and carrots or whatever. That was just great. It also started to turn into a twisted meet cute. I thought that was fun. When the disturbed Sam at first thinks she's a figment of his imagination because, he's having mental issues. And then he starts to quiz her about things about himself and she doesn't know anything. And I'm glad that Sam realized that meant she was real because it could have gone a different way. But then to protect him when she took out the guard by climbing through his brain, killer ending for episode 3. Great cliffhanger ending for the first night of Gen V, because again, they debuted the first 3 episodes all at once. Now, there are a couple of the boys' cameos on night 1, here and there. They're sprinkled across. Some of them are very fleeting. Did you catch Vaught Tower, by the way? Still under repairs after the season 3 finale where Queen Maeve took Soldier Boy outside before he exploded. But to be honest, I don't think the show, surprisingly, really even needs them because it's so strong on its own. But I think having them does help to make this seem like it's one big story, which is great. Courtney, a new character for Vaught, the Vaught EP, aka executive producer in charge of Godolkin University, their publicity, she's great. She's a particularly strong new character. From handling interviews to pitching a way too personal reality show to Emma. I thought she did a fantastic job. Love this character. I'd love to see her used in The Boys going forward as well. I would like to say or point out, though, and I'm curious how you feel about this, that associating very serious issues like cutting and eating disorders with superpowers is a very tricky road to go down. I mean, on the one hand, it shows the importance of owning this pain and the problem and turning it into something positive, right? But on the other hand, both Marie and Emma have to keep doing that behavior to be able to use their powers. So they can't move past that. And I think that's a little problematic. The show is so good and it's such an edgy show, which is part of the Boys brand, that you kind of can maybe excuse it, I guess, but I don't know if we should. I think it was a touchy choice. The show, I haven't seen the last 2 episodes, but I'm not quite sure about, that choice. All right. Also, I will say I thought Emma being like Alice in Wonderland, the eat me stuff, right? As Sam points out, is a nice touch, but I don't know if it's enough to make this a path worth going down. But let's talk about God U, right, where most of Gen V takes place. Overall, Gen V hits a bullseye with the socially aware posturing, they don't really believe it, that's so popular in the academic space these days. And this kind of commentary runs strongly through each episode. I think they do a very smart job of it. Just like they're making fun of business in The Boys, here they're very much making fun of universities and highlighting how universities have become businesses themselves, which is why they're perfect for Vaught, right? For the Vaught commentary. The Dean's Office, lots of references to adult soups here, and very well done, by the way. They're obviously props, but they look like the real deal on camera. They don't look like cheap replicas. You're like, I believe that's a real glass-stained window, and I believe that's a real gold statue. I mean, it's very nice. I liked it a lot. I was like, I feel like we're in like the boys store, and I'd be tempted to maybe pick up a little something. In the cafeteria, I liked this larger mural, which seems to focus on the full history of the Seven's roster, not only current members, but past ones. And it seems to indicate that Crimson Countess was a member of the Seven after she and Payback betrayed Soldier Boy and I guess presumably ended that team. And in the front and center, that's Polarity, right? Andre's father, who clearly had a good run with his Magneto-style powers to get such good placement. I was surprised Homelander was so far on the side, but I guess that's just trying to point out what a big deal Polarity was at one point. They mentioned 2 majors at Gen U. There have to be other majors, but they only focus on 2. The Crimson Countess School for Performing Arts. That's hilarious, considering what her acting career actually was, if you can even call it that. And then also, I thought it was funny that they actually called out, like they said, you can appear on shows like Riverdale. And I was like, oh, shots fired, shots fired. And then there's also, so that's the school that Marie ends up in at first, which she's not too happy about, and that Emma is in, which Emma is fine with, at first at least. And then there's also the Lamplighter School of Crime Fighting, which is where Marie really wants to study. Although named after Lamplighter, who killed the family of a CIA agent, again, crazy. But this school has produced every top 10 student at Godolkin in the past 30 years who have all gone on to protect major cities. That's a selling point for the university, and some have even joined the Seven. And we learned that Queen Maeve is an alumnus who was #1, and so was A-Train. And the Deep only made it to #6, which again was hilarious. And the current #1, again, is or was Luke Riordan, aka Golden Boy, who again was all set up. He'd been drafted to New York, complete with a cool costume, which I thought was pretty sweet. I feel bad we're never going to get to see Patrick Schwarzenegger in that. But that could withstand his superheat, so it wouldn't burn off when he flamed on. And I like this being like a sports draft, right? Like the best players going to the big cities that pick them, so you don't quite know what your future holds. So I thought that was neat. So on that note, let's do our rankings. Now here are my super rankings for this week. And as I said, I'd love to hear yours down below. So #1, Marie Moreau. I was a fan of Jazz Sinclair's, her work on Sabrina, and to see her do so well here as a lead is really fantastic. She's definitely the heart of the show, and she manages to have agency even though she is being constantly manipulated by others. Like, who's paying her way at Godolkin? And while she was going to be a scapegoat for that night out with the star students of the school at that club that almost got a regular person killed, a scapegoat as they were going to expel her and say it was all her fault, now, after what happens with Golden Boy, she's fast-tracked to be a superstar to make the company look good and distract the press and the masses from the Golden Boy disaster. They're like, look at this! Doesn't this check all the current boxes? So she's still a scapegoat, I think, ironically, but in this scapegoat scenario, all her dreams still get to come true. So this is a fantastic, so story-wise, it's fantastic to put her on the Cinderella track, complete with ball gown, which she looked fabulous in. But at the same time, she is starting to learn the reality of Vaught versus her dream of what Vaught was, right? What her parents saw it as. Now, the question is, will she still just play the game so she can get what she wants? And I think the show is doing a good job of keeping you guessing, particularly in that interview. I like that maybe that reporter didn't even talk to her sister, because part of me would like them to at least talk it out a little bit. But anyway, she ends up, even though Jordan had begged Marie to tell the truth, that Marie ran, and Jordan is the one who held Golden Boy off, because, Jordan's not getting any credit, not getting any of the recognition they deserve. But in the moment of the interview, Marie decides to take all the credit for herself. She's going to go for it. She's going to go for the brass ring. And that was really interesting. That was very The Boys. Her powers are formidable, though. At first, she seems like she's just making blood whips, and I'm like, what the heck are you going to do with that? But we see in her origin story, like that's what I thought in the trailers, but in her origin story, we saw that she can create blood projectiles, which I wonder why she hasn't done ever since. Maybe because she's so traumatized. And she also saves that woman at the club by keeping her blood inside her body, even though she had her throat slit. That I thought was a really good touch. I thought that was a great use of her powers. And having seen a few more episodes, let me just say, her powers are going to get even more interesting. And she's still #1 this week, though. #2, Jordan Lee. This character is a really fascinating exploration of gender identity and fluidity through the superhero lens. Jordan wanting to live a fluid life between male and female, not picking, but yet their father wishing that Jordan would just stay male. Even though they're incredibly powerful, Vaught not giving them their due because they don't think that Jordan will play well in the Midwest. Also, who doesn't love a character who can brawl? Fantastic, again, fantastic fight sequences. Also, to go from very unsympathetic to very sympathetic in the span of just 3 episodes, that's not only kudos to the writing team, but actors Derek Liu and London Thor, who also, as I said in my review, very much make you feel like they are the same person. And I think the half chain link, half pearl necklace was a real nice touch by the costume department. Then number 3, I'm going with Emma Meyer, aka Cricket. At first I thought Marie had the most annoying roommate ever, right? And I wasn't sure where they were going with the eating disorder angle. I was a little nervous about it until the Alice in Wonderland comment I thought at least made it clever. Also, the whole show mom angle and the social media mean girl, both cliche and done so many times before. So I wasn't feeling Emma's storyline at all. But then with episode 3 at the end, when Emma becomes such an action-oriented character and in such a unique, fun way, right, that she's still Polly Pocket, that's where I started to really like her. It was a great sequence, and Emma was the main part of why it was such a great sequence. So hats off to her as well. Number 4, Golden Boy. Nice job, Arnold Schwarzenegger Jr., or really more Maria Shriver Jr. But while at first he seems like Homelander light, with the first 3 episodes, I thought he actually had some nice dramatic beats. Also, fantastic power set. Love it. Love a really powerful character, and the visuals of being on fire, they did that really nicely. I also like that he burns off all his clothes. Again, very The Boys. And when he flames on, he owns it. He's not embarrassed. Very The Boys. And I like that even though he was killed off in episode 1, they're continuing to bring him back via flashback so far because he really is a good character and there's still a lot to be discovered about him. Number 5, I'm sorry to say, Andre Anderson. I wish he was higher too because I really liked Chance Perdomo and Sabrina as well. And he's also great here, also leveling up nicely to a lead character. But he has a show dad. Again, we've seen that storyline, right? It's a little different with it being the dad, I guess. And as Luke's best friend and as a star at the school, right? He is at the center of the story. So dramatic-wise, I think he's taken care of. But he's not getting to use his powers enough. It's disappointing to me on a show about supers. He grabs the water bottle, he gets the fingerprint scanner to work, right? Making that little birdie that almost killed that woman when he lost control of it. At first, I gotta tell you, I thought he was telekinetic because he uses his powers so little and they're so poorly defined. He just needs to level up his super game to get up higher on my list. Number 6, Sam Riordan, Luke's little brother, clearly a force to be reckoned with, and his mental health issues add quite the wrinkle to our story. But I think that actor Asa German makes him very likable, even though he's doing very bad things, and that's tough to do. And I also really like the vibe between him and Emma, so I'm interested to see where that goes. Then, in last place, for just this week, maybe she'll do better next week, but I have Kate Dunlap, number 7. She can control you or your mind by touching you, right? She has to touch you, which is why she wears rogue-style gloves all the time. So far, though, she's just a super mean girl, and her punishing commands I thought were way over the top. I was like, where do you come up with this stuff? And they weren't particularly clever. I just thought they were like over-the-top crude, and I'm more likely to forgive that if at least I think you made an effort in the clever department. But I don't really think she did. But you know what I found interesting about her character so far? The origin story, right? Of telling her little brother to get lost when they were camping. I wonder if that Woods parallel is anything. That's interesting. But not realizing he'd do it because her powers had just manifested, right? And her little brother was never found again. I wonder if he'll be found by the end of this season. But that's interesting. And having seen a few more episodes, by the way, I can tell you that this character won't stay at the bottom of my list for long. No spoilers. Again, I haven't seen the last 2 episodes even, but just with her power use alone, they found some interesting stuff to do with it. But this week, last place. So again, what are your super rankings for the first 3 episodes? What do you think of Gen V so far? And with so many fun little things like the invisible RA, for instance, what are some other things that you noticed that popped out? Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.